So I finally got the musket to 20. This had to be the most painful weapon to level up, mainly because in the PvE side of things, this weapon is just very underwhelming and really desperately needs a buff. The 3 skills I use the most, starting with powder burn. The best thing about this is that you could literally set the mobs on fire. The only downside with it is that it has a really long cooldown. So you really need to pick your target wisely. And if you miss that shot, then you're gonna have to wait a whole 15 seconds, which feels like an eternity sometimes, just to be able to do it again. The coolest thing about the powder burn though is that you could prime it in your weapon, swap over to like a secondary weapon, let's say if you're using bow or something, and then just use that until you're ready to use the powder burn. So once you're ready to shoot like a boss target or an elite or something that you feel like would take a lot more time to kill, it will definitely make it more worthwhile. And I ended up going with all 3 skills in this. So I got the backdraft. So this makes it so that you do 12% more damage with every shot while the target's on fire. So that's really good. And then if you do a headshot with the powder burn, it gives an extra duration to the burn. For the second ability, I'm using shooter stance. There's a lot of problems with the shooter stance. One of the biggest issues is that it has a really long cooldown. You see that by 20 seconds. Another really big issue is that once you're down and you're prone and you're doing your thing, the mob will beeline straight to you and will most likely open up with one of their like knockback abilities. So the first thing they're gonna do is knock your ass back, get you out of your shooter stance, and then you're back to just shooting regular shots again. The thing that I would do to rework this ability specifically is make it so that there is no cooldown and you can basically just go down and stay in it as long as you want to. Especially since this is a very situational ability. This is one of those abilities that, let's say maybe if your group has aggro and they're doing a good job of tanking and things like that, then maybe shooter stance could work. In most situations, shooter stance is completely useless, especially for like if you're soloing. The chances of you actually using this ability is very low. But still, like I said, all the other abilities just really didn't do anything for me to make me want them. And that's why I put this in my tray, because I felt like it was better than nothing. With the passives, I ended up going with all of them because this one adds a few more shots. So it goes up to 5 shots while you're in shooter stance. So that's pretty good when you can actually stay in the stance. And then 3 consecutive shots at the same target reduces all the other cooldowns. I wish it would lower its own cooldown, but that's just not how it works, unfortunately. The last ability is Trap. And the main reason why I went into this line is because it has a heal down in the passives. One of the really cool things about it is that you can actually toss it very far away or even very close. For example, I didn't know this when I was playing, so most of the time I would just look down and throw it on the ground like this. But you can actually throw it in the distance too. So let's say like if you're planning to escape a little bit to like back off to let a mob run into it, you can throw it up in the air like this, and you see that it'll fly pretty decently far. And now going into the passives, this first passive increases the damage that you would do while they are trapped by 20%. So that's pretty good. This is the bread and butter of this ability. So Scent of Blood. It regens 100% of the weapon damage as health. So what I like to do with it is I like to throw the trap on the ground, switch over to something fast. Let's say like you're using a hatchet or a rapier or like anything but the musket. You will rejuvenate all the health back like immediately. It's such an amazing heal when it works. The biggest downside is that you can accidentally throw it on the ground, the mob runs into it and then stun locks you, and then you're screwed because it only lasts 3 seconds. So you really have to be careful how you use this ability. So if you're relying on this as your main heal, it could land up shooting you in the face because you just never know what the hell the mob could do to you sometimes. And then this last passive is very important, and it gives you 2 traps. That way you don't have to sit there waiting for the cooldown, because the cooldown is pretty long by 20 seconds. The biggest downside with this ability though is that when you throw one trap on the ground, it doesn't go on cooldown. So you have to throw both traps before it goes on cooldown. That's the sad part, and I hope that we could see a buff with this. That way, like when you throw one trap on the ground, it starts going the first one on cooldown while you could still throw the second one. This is something that Path of Exile, back when I played that, had a trapper that was able to do shit like this. And I would throw traps around and then save my final trap for like an important situation, you know? And I wish that this was doing the same kind of effect, it would definitely benefit a lot more. Okay, now, so as far as all the passives, on the Sharpshooter line, I went with critical reload. So this is landing 3 headshots within 5 seconds, grants you an instant reload. So basically, you could shoot 3 times in the head and then get a 4th one for free. So it's pretty nice. Empowering headshot gives you increased damage by 10% for 5 seconds when you do a headshot. So this is something that I'm always trying to do, is always trying to aim for the head all the time if possible. Here's another really good passive for headshots that makes it so that it lowers your cooldowns by 10% when you hit a headshot. This one right here makes it so that while you're aiming down the sight, you get a buff of 2.5% damage increase, as long as you're holding the button down. The moment you let go of right click, you're gonna lose all the damage stacks. So that's the only downside with this thing, especially if you're like me and you like to weapon swap a lot, then it kind of makes it a little useless, but this was still better than the other passives, so I landed up picking this one up. I went with Hit Your Mark, which increases headshot and critical hit damage the further the mob is away from you. So if you get a really good shot, let's say like from, you see where I am right now, I'm really far away. I could go ahead and just like, you know, snipe some of these guys if I can actually hit them. And it does really good damage, especially from farther and farther away they are. So it works. The last one is snipers. So this gives you a 3 times zoom when you use the mouse wheel to zoom in, like you just saw me do. And it also increases the headshot damage by 15%. That's the main reason why I picked it up. It was only for that raw number of getting more headshot damage. So this really rewards you for getting headshots here in this Sharpshooter line. On the Trapper side, I went with Weakened Defense, only because there wasn't really anything else that I wanted to pick up, and this one makes it so that when you shoot a target that has a shield, it does a little bit more damage to the shield, and then also it adds armor penetration by 10% to targets that aren't blocking. I grabbed Hustle just to get down the line a little bit more, and this one gives you haste when you dodge, which I don't really notice much of a difference, honestly, but I really didn't have much of a choice. Like I said, I had to go down the line. Tactical Reload is probably one of the best passives in this entire thing. It makes it so that when you dodge, it gives you a free reload. So basically, if you work it out right, you could do 2 shots at one time. So let's test it out on this one right here. Oh my god, if I can go in. Okay, so check this out. Missed the shot. Okay, perfect. You see, and that's how you waste your powder burn. You see what I mean? And that's why you got to be real careful with the damn thing. But anyway, let's try it again. So shoot the target, dodge, shoot the target again. You see that? And it actually works really well when it works. You know, but the thing is that sometimes you can miss your shot or whatever, and it can totally ruin the whole situation completely, like you just saw. The only downside with this tactical reload is that if for any reason you decided to dodge just to dodge, like, you know, a special attack or them like getting ready to hit you with like a stun or something like that, it actually puts this on cooldown. So you have to wait the full 6 seconds for you to get the tactical reload to work the way you wanted it to. So that's the biggest issue with it. But anyway, that's the build. That's the musket. I just wish it was better. Like, you know, they definitely could do a little rework with this thing. It's nice when it works, and then other times it's just kind of meh. You know, like it's very underwhelming weapon. With this build right now, you know, I went full deck, so I went as high as I could with this, and then I started pumping points into intelligence, since it does scale with intelligence too. So I figured it would be pretty nice. And I landed up getting all the way up to this elemental damage thing, mainly because I'm starting to use bow a lot, and I have one of those gems for converting damage. So it's pretty nice for that. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to put those kind of gems on my gun for some reason. I guess maybe it was because the level of it. I'm not really sure what happened there, but it wasn't allowing me to do it. But anyway, I'm so glad the grind is over. I'm so over this weapon. I can't wait to just put it in storage and just let it catch dust, because like it's sickening to use this thing because of how slow it is. And I'm really hoping that maybe in the future we'll see some guns that have like maybe more bullets in the chamber or something, instead of shooting one time and then having to reload like every second. Like it's it's very, very clunky and unreliable, and that's why I don't like the Musket. But anyways, I'm glad it's over. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't, and I will see you on the next one. Later, guys.